Senator Bill Stanley, live in Richmond. Senator, great to have you.
Great to have you too, John. But if putting my picture on the front page of the Virginia Star turns me into the mealy mouth that I just heard in that segment with Servo, leave my picture off of it.
I mean, what was up with that? What was up? I mean, I love Scott to death. He's a friend of mine, but that was like super cautious. And I thought you were part of the new woke Biden, mobs, not jobs, burn it down, protest types.
Well, and it seemed like, they came, hell-bent for leather for this special session. They were all gung-ho and ready to go. And I think events surrounding them have turned, I think public opinion's turned on it. We've seen a rapist get out on bond in Northern Virginia and then kill the accuser. We've seen now Louise Lucas being arrested for 2 felonies involving the destruction of a monument in Portsmouth. I think their excitement is becoming tempered and to almost disavow, like my friend Scotty did, what they're doing or minimize it and say, hey, we're going to try to get out of here in a couple days. Let's just stifle debate. It smacks of this duplicitousness that has been the hallmark of the last session, and I think will be the hallmark of this one as well. I'm disturbed. I thought we were coming here to debate serious issues and to do serious things and to allow free and open debate. I just heard on the caucus call that we had this morning that perhaps, my bills, which didn't come back from Legislative Services until yesterday, aren't going to be heard on the court's docket. They're not planning a second meeting. So now they're going to kill bills by pocketing them and not give a fair and open discussion to each bill filed regardless of party. This is not shaping up to be a special session with important issues. This is shaping up to be a week-long defund the police rally orchestrated by the Democrats, and it's going to play out in the Virginia Science Museum and on the basketball court at VCU. I mean, this is ridiculous.
So they just basically said your bills don't matter?
Well, right now, what we understand is the courts committee is going to meet today at 4 after we organize. And the docket has already come out, and bills that are still being filed, because we can file up to today, aren't set on that docket, and there's no guarantee that they're going to be set. And what we're hearing is they're not going to have a second court of justice, or judiciary committee, as they now call it, meeting to consider all of the bills. So, then you hear Scott. Scott wants to wrap it up and get out of here because he's got to go practice law. If your business is more important than the obligation you undertook when you ran for this office, maybe you shouldn't be here. And it seems like this new cavalier attitude is going to carry over and even not allow some bills, some very good bills, and especially if they're mine, they're really good bills, to be considered.
Well, that's not like Dick Saslow to do that, because he's always trying to get bipartisan support, work with you guys. I mean, he's very liberal, but that's been his signature. Easy to work with, been there 30, 40 years, a long time, knows the ropes. What changed?
Right. I think the temperature and the climate and the environment surrounding them. I mean, it sounded like a really good idea to them during the height of the protests and really understanding the murder of George Floyd. But what we've seen play out is riots in the streets going on 60 days, Democrat-controlled cities being ruined and crushed into shambles and being run by mobs, Chaz takeovers. We've had, again, like I said, just a little while before, we had a man who raped somebody and then killed that person when they were allowed out on COVID-related safety concerns. It sounds great on paper and from 30,000 feet for these Democrats, but I think when they got to ground level here at Richmond and they see even the destruction as I drove through the city last night as we arrived, was just heartbreaking. Maybe it's starting to sink in that reality is a lot different than up in their glass and ivory tower, where they get to command the people below them and the peons that must do the everyday things as they make determinations for our lives that do nothing to make us safer, that do nothing to make us a better Commonwealth. And I think, if they short arm this session, like it sounded like Scott said they were going to do, then a pox on all their houses.
Senator Bill Stanley with us, Republican state senator, leader of the Republican caucus from Southside Danville area, Medina, Virginia. Bill, you just nailed something. And I asked Scott this, and I said, have you, because I go to downtown Richmond every day. I'm sick over what's happened when I get down there. It's disgusting. Such a beautiful city, such a vibrant city, and now it's turned into just trash and broken windows and the F word written all over everything. I can't stand going down there now. It's depressing. And it was the opposite of that. And I asked him, I said, what was your reaction when you went down there? He says, well, I really haven't been downtown yet. Obviously, he's staying in, somewhere else in a suburb. He says, well, I really haven't been downtown yet. But I told you this when we talked on the phone last night. I said, when you guys drive in, I said, you're going to be shocked at what you see, not having been here in a few months. It sounds like you had that experience.
Yeah, it looked like a war zone to me, and especially when you have a memory of not too long ago, of January, when we arrived at this beautiful, vibrant city, of full of hope and promises for small business owners, for citizens to break the cycle of poverty, working together, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of what you think. I mean, this was a shining city on the hill, and was really an attractive place to come, and was great for the economy. And some 4, 5, 6 months later, what we have is almost a war zone, a burned-out war zone. And no one's going to come down and spend their tourism dollars here. Nobody wants to come and see that kind of destruction. It's depressing, and it's a real shame. And a tear falls from I think a lot of Virginians' eyes when they see what's happened here. You also hit on it. The only thing I see productive is they certainly know how to spell the F word, and they do it with regularity, and that's just
it's disgusting. You can't. It is every single store, every board has the F word on it. And it's like, what have we come to? And it's not getting cleaned up. And now they're smashing windows at the Omni and, the John Marshall Court Center. And nobody will do anything about it. Certainly the mayor is more interested in people getting stoned and high than being able to control his own city. I mean, he's just a sorry excuse for a mayor. But listen, Bill.
His last name is Stoney. I mean, come on.
Well, Stoney gets stoned. I mean, I said this. I had a big thing on this for 2 days. I mean, the city is burning down. People are losing their businesses. They're losing their jobs. You can't go to work. You can't buy anything down there. It's disgusting. People are scared. I mean, they're moving out of Monument Avenue. Kim Gray, councilwoman, Democrat, running for mayor, has 3 children. By the way, just throw this out there. She's the only person running for mayor that actually owns a home there. The others rent apartments so they can just get the hell out when they destroy the city. She actually owns a home. She has little children. They're banging on drums at 10 p.m. They're shining lasers in. The kids are scared to death. There's no cops to be found. They're all told to stand down. This is what the city of Richmond has turned into. This is what you're going into. So maybe you're right. Maybe Scott Suravel, saw this, and they're reading the tea leaves, and they're taking a much more cautious view than maybe they were 2 weeks ago.
Well, it seemed to me, especially when the omnibus bill came out in its first version and form, that they were basically going to ram this down our throats, and our opinion really didn't matter. And now this equivocation that's going on, this kind of more relaxed attitude, a lessening of expectations, at least from what Scotty was saying. Again, I love Scotty to death. I love him. I've known him since we were just young attorneys running the halls in the Fairfax County courtrooms. Great guy. But I think he's the bellwether, the canary in the coal mine that may now give us an indication of how those feelings, that gung-ho attitude has changed with the Democrats, and their lack perhaps of the appetite and the intestinal fortitude to tackle these big issues honestly, openly, fairly, and take the time. You've got to take, if we're going to call a special session on this, then we have to take the time to debate these issues. The people of the Commonwealth deserve it, and it sounds like they just don't want to be here. Well, if they don't want to be here and they don't want to tackle these issues, you shouldn't have called a special session. Now you reap what you sow. And I know my Republicans in the Senate caucus are going to be aggressive. We're going to want a full debate on every single piece of legislation when it comes to the floor. And we're going to want our democracy to function as it has functioned before this pandemic, and we'll demand that it returns to that so that the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia get what they pay for when they send us up here to do our jobs.
Are you going to fight?
You have not yet. I have not yet begun to fight. You haven't seen the fight that's coming from the Senate Republican caucus. I think we have to stand and fight. Virginia deserves this, and if we don't, then I think we're complicit in whatever comes out of here.
Well, Bill, and we're with Senator Bill Stanley, Republican caucus leader, state senator from Southside Virginia. That's the Danville, Franklin, Moneta, Virginia areas where he's from. But, Senator, I got to be honest with you, one of our beefs with the Republican Party and your caucus and the House caucus is nobody fights anything. I mean, we haven't heard a peep out of Tommy Norman, your minority leader, on anything. I like Tommy. He's a good guy. I like having him on my show, but he hasn't said anything. Jeff Ryer hasn't sent a press release out. We get a tweet a week from Garen Shipley that is like 2 sentences that doesn't mean anything. So there's a lot of frustration. If you guys don't fight back, then those of us that are following this basically think you don't have anything to fight with, and so you'll just kind of throw in with it and throw your arms up. That's been kind of what's happening, Bill. I hate to be honest with you.
No, I appreciate your honesty, and I can understand the perception. The thing is that as a part-time legislature, once we adjourned out, we're powerless. And so the governor has run unfettered with unchecked power, limited only by his judgment, as the code provides, that I'm trying to amend in one of my bills to eliminate his judgment as the only uncheck on power. But it doesn't give you a lot of a platform to do much more than scream and yell. And we have put out, caucus leadership has repeatedly put out press releases decrying what's going on, whether it be through an action of the governor, how he's handling COVID pandemic, the desire for the legislature to be involved. All these things we've asked for, and 2 things have happened. One, they fall on deaf ears. There's no response at all from the governor. We've all reached out to the governor. We've all tried to reason and be a collaborative partner with the executive branch. That's not occurred. And the second thing is that the media, the fake news media, and until the Virginia Star came around, would not have even reported nor hardly ever reprinted any portion of those press releases that we've worked on, put out, and tried to get the message out. So it limits you. So it doesn't give you that opportunity that this General Assembly special session gives you, which is to actually see us at work trying to rein in unlimited executive power, trying to make sure that we're protecting the citizens, trying to make sure we're protecting the police at the same time keeping our community safe. Now we have that platform, and maybe that is, too, why the Democrats aren't so happy about what may occur, because this isn't going to be a 3-day session like Scott Servo wants, hopes, and prays. I don't see my fellow Republican colleagues waiting on any of their bills in the 3 readings that he was talking about to allow him to go home, to allow him to go to his family. I'm missing my family too, but if we're here, let's do the job. Let's debate it in full. So I think you're going to see a full complement of an organized, not just resistance, but debate on what is right and what is the right direction for the Commonwealth of Virginia moving forward, taking up bills that make sense and decrying those that are just another attempt by the liberals to defund the police, to take out those things that keep our inner cities and our suburbs and our rural areas safe. So I think the fight is on, and I think if everybody will pay attention to what's about to happen in the next 2 weeks, because I think that's how long we're going to be here, I think not only will you be pleasantly surprised, you'll be energized going into November's election, in the presidential election, and super energized for 2021 in remaking the General Assembly and our executive branch.
John Fredericks Radio Network, good to have you with us. We're with Senator Bill Stanley, Republican, represents Southside Danville area. Senator Stanley, part of caucus leadership in the minority. The state Senate in Virginia has a 2-person minority. They're down 21-19, plus Justin Fairfax is the lieutenant governor, Democrat, so any non-budget tie, he weighs in as a tie-breaking vote. Bill, let's get to a couple of things, and so that I don't run out of time. Are we going to potentially see a Senator Bill Stanley campaign for statewide office in 2021?
Well, I think any good, and you and I have talked about this before, offline and online, any good person that's looking at something like this isn't probably going to make a decision until November and see how the election turns out. I'm hoping and praying and working for Donald Trump to be reelected. And if that happens, Northern Virginia will never vote for a Republican, even a reasonable one, such as myself. And so the rest of the state, even though it may be overwhelming for that candidate, their vote can be canceled out by Northern Virginia. So I think that's why a lot of Republicans at this point are taking a look. There's a lot of considerations just because of COVID. During COVID, I've got 9 people that I'm responsible for in my business. It's been tough on my practice, as it has on so many small business people. And those are the considerations now that you have to make, because if you're going to run, you better hang up your business for 11 months. And my people don't deserve that. And in the position that it's in right now, it's always very delicate, and you don't know what the future is going to bring. So that consideration will be made down the line. I know you like to joke that, I like to hear people talk about it for 3 months and then I don't commit. I don't know where that ever happened before, but look, I'm very serious about running for statewide office. Is it this time or is it the next cycle? I've got young kids. I'll still be not over the hill, not even close to Joe Biden age 5 years from now. So, that's a consideration that we're all taking into account. And look, I'm happy Kirk Cox has stepped out. I love Bill Carrico. He was my seatmate.
Right.
Those would be hard gentlemen to run in a primary or a convention against. Just
right,
because I love it. But Attorney General would be something I consider as well.
All right, so you might run for Attorney General, you might run for governor, but we'll wait until to see how the election goes. I think that's the reasonable decision to make. Bill, let's get back to the General Assembly. A lot of us are concerned with the fact that Ralph Northam has emergency powers in perpetuity. I asked your colleague Scott Serville about that. He didn't seem concerned with it, and I said, so basically you're okay if Governor Northam has these powers through the end of his term, and then when his term ends, does that just transfer to the new guy? I mean, does this ever end? Is this just a new way to govern Virginia, where the governor is all powerful under a perpetuitous act of emergency? When does this end?
Yeah.
And isn't that up to the General Assembly to decide?
Well, and it's the General Assembly that created the statute, Virginia Code 44-146.17, that gives him this unfettered power. And in the writing, in the actual bill itself, says that his powers under these Emergency Powers Act are only limited by his judgment. And that has never been how we've written laws before. I don't think it was intended that way. But as you know, and you were even saying why we haven't done anything, I was the first one who represented Gold's Gym, and we sued the governor and sought an injunction saying that his powers were too broad, and even as broad as they were, he was violating those powers. So there is no way that you can allow this power to be unchecked. It's not a part of the equal branches of government concept created by our founding fathers. Take it a step further, you have hit the nail on the head. This could go on forever. Why would you ever want to say we're out of an emergency situation? We could have 3 inches of rain and declare an emergency situation. We could have an outbreak of measles that hit 6 kids in a school and they can declare an emergency situation and then keep it there forever. That's not how our framers and the founding fathers who founded this Commonwealth too and its system of government intended it to be. So I've drafted a bill that takes out that judgment clause, that trims down and modifies that statute specifically to address pandemics, isolation, and quarantine, and then limits his ability to do so for a certain time. And then the last part of it is that it makes sure that no business or category of business in my bill can be shut down for longer than 30 days without court due process and intervention. That is a petition to the circuit court by that business or by the government to extend it or the business to terminate it. So we've got to focus on businesses and people and getting back to living. We have to live again.